Hello, the Keen Witch here with the video for Aquarius season. This is the rundown. We're going to go through the dates and the basic transits. I do have my notes because there's too many to keep track of off the top of my head. So join me for this. We do start off, this is really important to note, we start off with the sun going into that conjunction with Pluto. Pluto's going to be there till 2043, give or take a retrograde or two. So this is kind of the official kickoff, this deep, rich Aquarius moment where we have to come to terms with what is and what has been and what will be. So know that that's our vibe entering in it. Aquarius season starts on the 19th. If we're in EST time, it can vary depending on how early or late that time is in your time zone and the country you're in, etc. But we then get that conjunction on the 21st. So buckle up. If you're not already buckled up, I know 2025 has already felt pretty long. It is because, as a reminder, we are in this Mars retrograde, and we are going to be in this retrograde until the early moments of Pisces season on the 23rd of February. So prepare yourself. And also a reminder that in Pisces season, and we're starting to see some of this astrology build up, we do start off with that Venus retrograde and then that Mercury retrograde through the early degrees of Aries, pardon me, into Pisces. So all of this is cumulative, and we're going to start hitting those shadow degrees for, I don't think for Mercury yet, but for Venus in Aquarius season, in the very least. So just know that we're going back to back Mars retrograde, Venus retrograde, another Mercury retrograde. These things are not to be blown out of proportion and afraid of, but the transformational energy is going to be a lot. We also do have eclipse season in Pisces season. So we're going to be getting those eclipses. It is also partially an Aries season because this is our last transitional phase between Aries and Libra axis and the Pisces and Virgo axis that the lunar nodes are in. We have just come from the Aries Libra axis. So we have a final Aries eclipse, which I think is on the 30th of March. And then we have a Virgo eclipse. So just know that we are building towards this. So if you feel that intense build, it is partially Pluto, it is the Mars retrograde, and it is this build towards a rather intense Pisces season. I know a lot of us don't hear that because let's be real, 2025 has felt like a year already for many of us. The second kind of major transit that happens in Aquarius season we have is the 27th of January. This is Mercury going into Aquarius. Mercury is in the middle of its kind of double trouble, is what I call it. When you go through Capricorn and Aquarius, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that Saturn is the heavy hitter in those signs that this planet is transiting through. So, accountability, responsibility, um, being beholden to the knowledge you have and being required to use what you know and to activate the energy that you have is something that's very prevalent in Aquarius. So while I find that, in Capricorn, Mercury is very much about manifestation and, being careful with your words and being held accountable to the stuff that you commit to. In Aquarius, we're going into needing to use the things that we have manifested to share the gifts that we have and to connect to others. We often talk about Saturn being boundaried and time and very heavy, but Saturn is also about connection. It's also about those cosmic threads that go through the universe. So, this kind of, we see a lot of past life stuff in Aquarius, or at least I do. Um, and the need to kind of work through and manage and understand those things. Then we have the new moon on the 29th. This is new moon Aquarius. This one I'm actually really looking forward to. It's 9 degrees, and we have a nice little Jupiter trine. As with all of these, I post other videos that go in more in depth. These are my first longer form videos after doing a lot of short form videos, so bear with me, please. So yeah, we have this nice trine with Jupiter. Jupiter is still retrograde and it is in Gemini, so still a bit silly goofy and very trickster in nature. So, there's goodness and magic and wonder, but the things that come out of these Jupiter moments are very kind of surprising and unexpected and have like a hint of a practical joke. And you're like, oh, could I just have gotten this a little simpler? And Jupiter's like, no, unfortunately not. I needed a giggle today. But I am excited. It's earlier degrees of Aquarius. It's going to be If you use a wide orb for Pluto, it is going to be under the influence of Pluto. And then we have that trine with Jupiter. So there is potential for a lot of really deep growth and unexpected kind of bursts of luck in a really kind of odd and goofy way. So I'm excited for that. Also, it's a new moon, so it's a good time to start stuff. I think this is about starting stuff that's really meaningful to you and that you want to bring out into the community. And um, it's a moon for something you really want to share that has a lot of um, symbolism and beauty to you. And it can be silly goofy. It can be something, like some craft you've been really into. But this is a moment of sharing and um, of spreading your cosmic energy with the cosmos and the people you care about. So look out for that. Then we have Uranus direct, which I'm very excited for. Uranus has been really kicking it up since we had all of those conjunctions back in the spring of 2024. And that Uranus story is still heavy hitting. If you were born in the early 90s as well with that Uranus Neptune conjunction, this is also really impactful for you. Or if you have a really strong Uranian signature, like Sun conjunct Uranus, or just Uranus conjunct anything, or just like multiple aspects to Uranus. The modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus as well. So if you're an Aquarian, this is very important for you. So just be aware, with the bigger outer planets, we don't always feel those retrogrades as much, but I will tell you, the more you work with energy, the more you're like, they're doing it again. It may not seem as apparent, but if you start to work with energy, you will notice when these planets shift and what it feels like. One astrologer once said it didn't matter, and I was like, that's not true. Obviously it's a matter of opinion, but yeah, keep track of that. I am excited for it to go ahead. It's also going to be moving towards its ingress into Gemini later this year, which is another really important moment. Uranus is a really long cycle, so we're going to be going into Gemini. Really look at where this is in your chart. It's important. That happens in, I want to say, the summer. You can tell how organized I am and that my vault of secrets is actually working. Then we have Jupiter direct. Um, and Venus going into Aries on the same day. This is the 4th of February. And Venus will already be in its shadow period, but it'll be getting ever closer to the degree it retrogrades at, which is 10 degrees of Aries. Excuse me. So, yay. And also Jupiter's direct, which I'm very excited for because the rotten behavior of Jupiter and Gemini, that kind of pulling pranks and doing the thing that seems most ineffective and somehow effective at the same time, is heightened when it's retrograde. So I'm looking forward to us seeing that go direct, especially as we're hitting that Venus retrograde soon. It's nice to feel a little bit of that energy start to move forward, even though we're going to be going through another one of these things, And over all of this, we have the Mars retrograde in Cancer. So important stuff. Then we also have on the 9th of February, we have the Mercury Cazimi, which I really love. I love Cazimis. I'm Mercury ruled. These are days of insight. I also find that Cazimis, because of where they tend to fall in cycles, this isn't in a retrograde yet, but if you are feeling like there's a struggle or you're kind of hitting a wall, a Kazemi can really clear out that energy and give you insight into what you desire to do moving forward, especially when it comes to your thoughts and the patterns of your desires and how to get those out into the world. Because Mercury is the messenger and the communicator. So, if you've been struggling to talk to someone about something or to get an idea out, Cassini's can be a great day and way to work with that energy. And then we do have the full moon in Leo. This one's a little trickier because it is in a square with Uranus. And, that need to change and the fear of the future and, all the things that Uranus has meant in Taurus, which for me, it has a lot to do with our ecosystems and our environment and the health of the planet. I mean, with everything that's been happening, we all can see how, you know, deeply important that is. And it has the weight of that outer planet energy. So I do feel like we're going to have some kind of crisis of that. Also want to personalize the need to kind of decide a path forward when there seems like there's no path forward, when you're like there's either too many options or not enough options, and I have to move and I have to change, and it just doesn't feel as though, that next step has secure ground, but you have to take it anyways. It's very much the fool in tarot energy, where you kind of have to leap before you look. We're going to feel that pressure. Now, Mars is retrograde, so maybe you don't have to do that all at once, but be ready to do that with that energy. We do have that conjunction with the Sun and Mercury is still there, so I do think we have some insight and some understanding and some knowledge kind of easing this and helping this along, but please be aware of what's happening. Um, yeah, it's just going to be really complex, and um, it's just that feeling of needing to do things and not having a path forward. And we have to sit with that energy. We don't know where it's going. I will, of course, do a bigger breakdown when we get closer, but it is going to be a fascinating one. And then we have Mercury entering into Pisces on the 14th. And that's pretty much the last major planetary aspect we have going on in Aquarius season. So we do get a little bit of a breather. There are other things happening, but as far as like the big stuff, we do get a hair of a breather before we head into Pisces season, which is also intense. I think, as always, it's important not to be afraid of astrology, but if you know where the astrology of this year is going, it's going to be a lot. Aquarius season is the first season we start in this Gregorian calendar year. Um, Also, a reminder, if you don't feel like doing anything right now, it's because it's the winter. It's because we're creatures. It's because the Gregorian calendar was never meant to work well with humans. It was meant to work well with commerce and capitalism. Um, just so we keep that in perspective. You don't need to be doing anything right now. The Mars retrograde is not going to be helpful for that. The Venus retrograde is not going to be helpful for that. We have Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries this year. Neptune does that during the Venus retrograde. And then we also have Saturn moving in a little bit later. So this year is going to have a lot of shifts and changes. When I was meditating on 2025, firstly, the card of that is the Hermit. It is a trip in the dark. Something I've been saying is don't forget to reach out in the dark and try to find a helping hand. Just because you're alone in the dark doesn't mean you can't find a friend. Um, and also, the word shedding came to mind. We're going to be releasing and shedding, and um, a lot of old things are going to fall away this year. And my kind of cliche go to advice for these kinds of things is to just clear that space as you can. Try to clear it, not in kind of a desperate way, but try to clear some before the universe steps in, because when the universe steps in, they're just throwing things out. Start that process so it's a little less stressful and a little less intense when stuff, is being called to go away. Let it go. This is also me talking to myself. I'm a Taurus. I like to hold on to stuff. um, so yeah, that is the rundown for Aquarius season. Like I said, there are other more small, not really small, but trines and squares and all those things. But we could be here forever if we're going to discuss every single aspect of Aquarius season. Anyways, I will be dropping the tarot scopes, which is a tarot, mostly tarot focused, but I'm going to bring back the astrology lens because I am doing long form content now. I had to train myself on TikTok to do short form. Now I have to train myself to go back to long form, which is actually my natural state. I'm just deeply intimidated by YouTube. Anyways, my loves, this is the breakdown for Aquarius season. I love you all. If you do not know me, because I didn't really introduce myself because I haven't really done much on YouTube, I am the Keen Witch. I am an astrologer, tarot reader, past life worker, and a spirit baby medium. You can say hey in the comments. You can ask me any questions you have, and I will see you all in a different space and time.